making sure that it is in a sandbox, that your data are never being stored. The data you input are being then deleted when the output comes out. And for that, you need to go to platforms that gives you that guarantee and that are certified for that guarantee. So ISO certification, some exist, SOC 2 certification.
Yeah.
And of course, then just read the terms and conditions. If they have done created by lawyers who knows those problematic, then you may trust them better. Good morning, everybody. We are here today in Dubai, and that is episode 7 of This Might Be Legal. So after having spoken the last time about what you need to know about AI's impact on law, today I invited one more time Celaine to speak about what can you actually trust and how to build that trust.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dominique, for inviting me back on the podcast. It's always a pleasure. Always very nice to have. We'll be speaking about trust today. And so the idea behind today's podcast is for the majority part is that AI tools are nowadays such an essential part of our daily life. However, we're still finding a little bit of resistance when it comes to law, the legal profession, and lawyers as well themselves. Even though you have companies like OpenAI, for example, which strongly advises people not to use ChatGPT for legal advice, people still use it on a daily basis. They use it for legal advice. They also generate contracts on it. On the other hand, we also have lawyers who find a little bit of resistance or might be a little bit skeptical when it comes to asking AI questions or trusting AI fully. So today we'll just be running through a little bit of questions here and there to actually just see how we can actually find the middle ground and build trust between using AI as a good tool, as well as finding confidence and building trust in it. Shall we start?
Let's start.
Yeah. Okay. So my first question to you, we will be going through a little bit of a basic and a little bit of a general questions in the beginning so that it will be the introduction. So what is the purpose of contracts?
The purpose of contract is actually creating an evidence of an agreement that you have achieved with your counterparty. Is making sure that people remember what they've agreed on and that their recollection does not deviate when an issue occurs.
Isn't there like a kind of connection to trust there? Because before we used to have the gentleman's agreement, a handshake, and it would be over and done with. But
so, correct here. So the handshake still exists, and every agreement does not need to have necessarily a written form.
Yeah.
But the written form is really useful to at some point go back to what was said and what was agreed, to make sure that someone does not add to the agreement or withdraw from the agreement certain point that might be important to the other party.
So maybe over time, the people just stop trusting each other as much as the handshake.
Usually, at the beginning, everybody is happy actually to do a business together.
Yeah, of course.
And as time passes, people realize they haven't actually thought about all the points, or they realize that the interest actually deviates a little bit, or they realize that one works more than the others, or they realize that they're disconnecting against, for an ideas that or an implementation, and then that's where the dispute starts, and that's where bad faith or lack of recollection or I did not understand it this way starts.
Because the thing is, like you say, most of the time, it's like you don't know what you don't know. So in the beginning, like even when you start a business, everyone's like happy, oh, I'm starting this new startup with my friend and everything. And then
you realize that there's some withholding tax on the dividends you need to get. Then you realize that you did not manage your budget correctly. Then you realize that actually it requires a bit more work than what you thought it would be.
Yeah.
Then you realize that maybe you've had to put a bit more investment in there. And then all of a sudden you might feel that it's imbalance or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And from your experience, what would you say really differentiates a good contract from a bad one?
Look, a good contract must be a clear contract. Must be, when you read it, it is that clear that there's no way that someone can try to interpret it in a different way. So that means it, or at least avoid going to court saying, oh, but that clause is I understand it
Ambiguous.
this
Yeah.
way, and then the other one says, no, I understand it that way.
Yeah.
So a clear wording, number one. Number two, it must be, that's why sometimes clients do not understand why lawyers wants to add. It must cover the topic, and
Yeah.
cover the topic often. That's why clients, you don't know be careful what you don't know about, right?
Yeah.
So clients, they don't realize that it might cover this and that and that and that, and they want a simple contract, but a simple contract is great for simple things. Sometimes when you want to do a complex things like creating a business, then there is several aspects to it. You need to cover it. It can be governance of that business. It can be decision-making process of that business. It can be ownership of that business. It can be operating that business. It can be, money generating, money issues. It can be all sorts of things. It can be just as simple as having proper archive or proper accounting or proper recording expenses correctly, and it hiring, who is hiring, who is salaries, bonuses, all of that affects the P&L, the
Yeah.
profit and loss
Yeah.
statement. It may affect the balance sheet, and all of a sudden, if you don't think well at the beginning about all these points, then you're sure that at some point, when you launch a business, there's always tension at some point because things are never going the way you are thinking they should be going.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go really well. Sometimes you have to readjust a little bit. And so
Yeah.
you have to cover those things. At the same time, you don't want to over complexify things, right? So a good contract is to make complex things easy and understandable
Yeah.
and clear.
On that point, actually, I wanted to ask you, how do you do like a cutoff kind of thing? Because obviously, when you're drafting a contract, there's endless scenarios. Like you can think of 1,000,001 possibilities of what could go wrong. So how do you, as a lawyer, make a clear cutoff of like, oh, these are the things that should be included, but there's no need for the other things to be included?
So that's the thing about being a lawyer, is that nothing is ever standardized. So every client's needs are different because what you're saying depends very much not only on the situation, but also on the personality of your client. If you can see that your client is a deal maker, is flexible, is understanding, is patient, it's something else that if your client is an aggressive, tempered person who
Yeah.
would get offended all the time, for that one, you may want to make sure that everything is in there to be able to calm him down and say, look, that is in the agreement. We agree on that.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, the temper will take over. So there's no one question. It really depends on who you have in front of you, your experience as a lawyer to actually summarize and make things easy to understand
Yeah.
and complete and clear. And that's what makes the profession sometimes a bit difficult and tiring, is because nothing is ever standardized. The only thing that is standardized is your methodology of work, the methodology that you use to actually get to that end result, which is always different.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so basically, what we're saying is like you can have the same situation. You can have two clients who want the same exact thing, nothing differentiates, but still their outcome would be a little bit different depending exactly on who they are as people as well. That's why it's important, like for all the contracts to be actually tailor made for each and every person. No, that's very, very interesting. And on another note, can a contract look fine on the surface, but then actually expose you to risk?
Always. and every intelligence might generate an error. We all subject to errors. We all subject to not thinking well or to forget about something.
Yeah.
The problem is when that error becomes credible, and that's what is happening with certain AI tools, which are speaking like, producing like, but are not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say ChatGPT, for instance, speaks and gives comforts of legal analysis,
Yeah.
and is able to produce something that when you look into it, looks like a contract,
Yeah.
but often is full of mistakes. Might be full of mistakes. I've seen so many times the case on that. Or the plugin, the legal plugin of Claude as well. So again, the credible error, right? So where it gives you comfort that it's okay, and then you go for it, and then you just at some point you will always realize it's problematic. So for that, your next question will be, how do you avoid that, right? So and how do you avoid that is, whom do you select to give you the answer you need, right? So and for that you need to check the background. So if you go to a lawyer, tend to go to a lawyer that has the expertise for what you need.
Yep.
Not every there is what they call generalist lawyers, and they're good for like a generalist doctor,
Yes,
for
like GP, yeah.
general assessment. But then when you have a specific issue, you need to go to a specific doctor.
Yes.
And same thing for lawyers, same thing for AI tools. You can not go to generalist tools that does accounting, that does legal, that does architecture,
work.
therapist work, and everything, and then launches things in the name of legality. No, you have to actually go to tools that have been coded by lawyers. So you have a number of them. For the big law firm, you have Harvey or Legora. For the medium size to the smaller, you have what we've done, Laine.
Yeah.
And they have been coded by lawyers together with coders, but by lawyers with a methodology of work, with the same methodology of work to get to a credible or a result that is as accurate as possible.
So yeah, so we also tend to forget. I feel like users also tend to forget that, like certain tools, like for example ChatGPT, they were not specifically built to actually give you legal advice. So they were built as a general tool, as a general AI tool, but it was not specifically built to give people legal advice or give people actually create contracts for people.
No, they were created to be able to speak and have a general reflection. Now, every human is a bit lazy, right? So if you and especially in profession like being a lawyer, where drafting and reviewing is very time consuming.
Yeah.
And it's somehow secretarial work, right?
Yeah.
So,
Admin.
but you admin work where you have to actually reshape your contract, reformulate, reformat it, and it is true that those are good tools for a lawyer to actually speed your work, because it helps you to you know exactly where to go, and it does the work as if you would have a good human associate doing that for you, but he does that instantly. Now, of course, when you use them as a lawyer, you know what to prompt and you can assess the result.
Yes.
When you're not a lawyer, when you have not been trained, you might have some exposure to the law, you might have some past expertise. You need to self-assess what is your level of expertise in that. But of course, don't use them if they're not specialized tool, if you're not able to yourself assess the end result. And the second point is, of course, so it helps you to go faster. But then, are they confidential or not?
We're going to get to that point in a second. On the same concept of trust, when people are signing a contract, who are they really trusting? Are you trusting your lawyer? Are you trusting the other party? And even more so, when a contract is actually generated by AI, who is the user really trusting there?
So when you do a contract, what you want to have is to make sure that you can trust your counterparty first. That the agreement that you've reached make that both of you can trust each other, because you want to trust that both will act in accordance with what has been contemplated into that contract. Now, if that contract, or certain provision of that contract, becomes not enforceable or are not enforceable, or are breaching some principles of law, or are simply do not work. The other day I was just testing the legal plugin of Claude, and I was doing a convertible loan agreement. So that means a loan agreement that you give a loan to a company, and instead of repayment in cash, you can convert it into shares of the company. So Claude was allowing me to actually grant the loan to a physical person. And of course, you cannot convert shares of a physical person. It
Yeah.
must be a company, right? It's completely wrong.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to go through that perfectly without drawing any of my attention.
Oh, wow.
And so then in this case, I would probably, not knowing, do a contract and lend it against the owner of the company, and then at the moment where I would like to convert because it's I have interest, then the owner of the company said, but sorry, but actually this is a mistake in the contract. I cannot convert them. You should have done it with a company.
Of course.
And so that's where later on you realize that your contract is not enforceable and that the counterparty will play with it
Yeah.
in breach of the initial agreement.
Of course.
And so that's where you want to trust first your counterparty. Then, of course, you want to trust the intermediaries that help you to actually create
Of
that
course,
contract,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So either it be a lawyer, so you tend to go to a lawyer that has, how do you trust a lawyer? Because you know that lawyer, because in the past, his past experience with him has been successful, or because word of mouth, someone referred you that lawyer, or maybe he has been somewhere ranked, or he is well known, or whatever. So there's a certain element of trust. In terms of now the new technologies, AI, for instance, platforms, I think you need to check at the background, what is that AI made for? When you go to see a doctor, a generalist doctors, and you have a very specific issue in
Ear.
your ear, and you don't, would you go trust more a generalist doctor, or would you go and trust a specialist
Yeah.
that has studied specifically and his expertise is only on that matter? You would probably go there. So same thing with the legal work. You want to go to tools, the legal tools or AI platforms that are specialized in legal production, that have been coded by legal team, and possibly with a human touch still on that, right? Because see, AI cannot do everything as we speak. It does wonderful work, but it's not 100% production tool for everything yet. And it might be in the future, but it is not. So you need to have a platform where at the end, if you still have one or two questions, you have the ability to speak to a human lawyer that is an expert. And if you can have that, a specialized platform coded by lawyers with a human touch at the end, if you need, then bingo. Then you can trust it, because not that it will never do a mistake. You can go to the best doctor, and then at some point one day there is something that goes. But it happens to everybody. But the probability of that happening just
Narrows
shrink,
down, yeah.
narrows
Yeah,
down
yeah,
like
yeah.
anything. Yeah.
On I'm going to shift the topic a little bit. As we said before, like lawyers tend to be a little bit skeptical of using these AI tools. And I just wanted to ask you, why do you think lawyers are so skeptical of AI in general? And why is the legal industries so far one of the most resistant to the adoption of AI?
Or new technology, generally
Or
speaking.
new
Look,
technologies,
I
yes.
think it's the way lawyers have been trained and educated. You know, and probably, I wish to hope it doesn't really apply too much to me, but and to all my lawyers friends, forgive me for what I'm going to say, but the majority of lawyers are not businessmen. They are.
Yeah.
When you become a lawyer, you vote on certain
Yeah.
criteria to be independent, to be truthful, to be honest, and of course this is necessary for that profession. But it also creates a frame where everything has to be ticked the box. So you need to completely ensure that you are not breaching all of your duties as a lawyer, and 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 so you put yourself into a comfortable box, because
Yeah.
you say, okay, well, now I have Word. Now people tell me that Word, Excel, works well. I'm not breaching anything. I can work safely in there. Every time there is a new solution that comes in, um, all these questions rise again, right? Will I breach my professional secrecy?
Mm-hmm.
Am I still independent? Is the bar commission going to come after me? Will my clients be able to claim against me? Because the requirement, the duties that is imposed on lawyer are so high
Mm-hmm.
that they are scared of breaching them. So you need to actually build trust in your solution at a much higher level for lawyer than it would be for a graphic designer, or that it would be for a restaurant, like a platform like Toast for restaurants,
Yeah.
where it is just operating a business that doesn't have those high level of duties that is imposed by law, which might also, in case of breach, be a criminal matter for the lawyer.
Of course.
So preserving that profession is a sacred
Yeah.
duties.
Do you think that there's something in connotation with, because we're so used to doing things the harder way to a certain extent? It's like even before we had Word and everything, all contracts used to be written, like, let's say, manually, and they had to be in a certain format and everything. Do you think that, like, just because with the introduction of certain technologies, it's making lawyers' lives a little bit easier? It feels a bit too easy sometimes. So maybe lawyers are a little bit skeptical because they're like, oh, I can generate a contract like on a platform like Laine, for example, within seconds, and it's actually pretty accurate and it's precise. So it feels a little bit too easy. So maybe there's a little bit of resistance there. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons, right? So it might be that, of course, if it's not obtained in the hardware,
Yeah.
then it's not it doesn't cover the price.
Yeah.
It is true, but there's also lawyers who says, why would I give up billable hours, even though they're not considered as being high value to a client?
Yeah.
You know, when you actually collect information, when you just re-input, readjust a contract or a document, a legal documents, reformat it for a client. Those are not seen or perceived by clients as being high value for them. What is high value for a client is that the legality is correct and that things work well. And actually, this is funny enough. That's what we study at the university. And when you look at the current system, the old system, when you come out of a university, you say, but actually, I'm not doing anything that I've been doing at the university, because you at the university you study law,
Yeah.
you're making sure that things are legal,
Yeah.
enforceable, and then you come to a law firm, and then you start working by producing documents,
Yeah.
and then the legal part is maybe 20 to 15%. How much is the legal part?
Of the entire thing?
Yeah.
I would say 20.
Yeah, 20.
You need to have
What is
20%.
80% of the work?
Mostly admin. You have the research, you have the actual formatting. Like, yeah, it's like
So
80-20.
and so I think lawyers might be afraid that if they give up that 80%, they will start losing money.
Fair.
And of course it's a whole thing, because everybody invested into their own law firm. They invested into people. They
To
invested
themselves
into
as well.
themselves, into having a nice office. And this is, how am I going to financially manage that?
Yeah.
But I think the answer is quite simple, but it here also needs a little bit of trust into people. It's like clients are generally not happy to pay for admin work of a lawyer. Collecting information, reformatting, readjusting documents, spending time to say, okay, how am I going to actually put that sentence together? You know, trying to find the correct word. You know, to some extent that in England, in the old time, lawyers were charging by the word.
By the word, yeah.
That's why, like, English-based, common law-based contract are much
Yeah.
longer than the rest, because the more word, they would convincing your clients that you need so much word to cover everything,
Yeah.
and it would make lawyers get more money.
Yeah.
And was it useful for client? in maybe 1 out of 100 times,
Yeah.
that specific word was useful, but it's not necessarily. So the thing is, that created then from charging by the word, we went to charging by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
And from time to time, clients now want a flat fee, but I think we need to actually go out of all of that to no longer charge by the word. Of course, it doesn't exist anymore, but no longer charge by the hour, but charge for the value of the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you a concrete example. A medium-sized convertible loan agreement. If a client would come and ask a law firm to actually perform the work, until the time it's the whole relationship, the contract is drafted, delivered, and executed, would probably take 10 hours of time of a law firm, from the first contact to the end execution date. And that goes with all sorts of things: fact collection, facts extractions, reshaping, discussing again with the client, sending the first draft, the second draft, and everything. 80% of that work is being perceived by a client as being low value, because it's really just putting things together, and it's not the actual conversion, the actual of the loan into equity, the mechanism, and maybe some complex question that you may have with a security. That is really only 20%, 15%.
Yeah.
And so instead of charging $5,000 to $6,000 for this, you should not spend by spending 10 hours. Why don't you just spend 1 hour and a half doing what you have to do, the 15%, and charge $1,000 for that hour? It will still be 5 times cheaper to the end clients, and you will march twice. You would make 2 times more money, and you can take more clients. It is 5 times cheaper for clients.
Yeah.
You make more money, and you can actually, it gives more access to people, because since it's more accessible, more reasonable in terms of end fees, clients do not care about whether you charge $500 per hour or $1,000 per hour or whatever. What they care about is the size of the bill. They don't care about how much time you spend on that bill.
Of course, yeah. Ultimately, how much
that's
they're going
that's
to
what
pay.
it is. And so now with tools like AI, you can really fast track certain things which were nothing, and then value your work and financially a bit higher.
Yeah.
So, and that's where lawyers needs to be a bit more creative, and we will help them to be.
So what we're saying is that, is it really the resistance that we find from the legal profession? Is it really about confidentiality? And are there any bar rules and professional obligations that actually shape or influence lawyers on how they approach AI or technologies or these tools?
So the rules applying to lawyers for professional secrecies tend to be, the burden is really on lawyers. So they
Yes.
tend to be construed quite conservatively,
Yeah.
right? So it's quite restrictive. In addition to those rules, you have other rules which are like the data protection rules, right?
Yeah.
Where you need also to be careful about the data that the data of your clients, and that's why, since lawyers are not necessarily technicians, they have the feeling that they need to blindly trust a system to input data of their clients, and that they don't know if they're going to be in breach of their own professional secrecy rules or data protection rules. And that's where the friction starts, And so how to get out of it? And for sure, if you use the data of your clients into a ChatGPT or into a Claude AI, even though they promise you, we know perfectly that is being used to train a system, because those general models they use data, a huge quantity of data to train a general model. It's based on this. They're not based on an agentic sophistication where you work based on a methodology lake. They're basing their output based on the quantity of data they can ingest. Data becomes um, oil becomes a energy for them, right? So they have to actually take those data. So if you use those as a lawyer, those tools, you're sure that at some point there might be an issue.
Yeah.
So you might go around and nobody will notice, but there has been already. So that's where you need to select your data, your solution
Yeah.
correctly, making sure that it is in a sandbox, that your data are never being stored, that your the data you input are being then deleted when the output comes out. And for that, you need to go to platforms that gives you that guarantee and that are certified for that guarantee. So ISO certification, some exist, SOC 2 certification.
Yeah.
And of course, then just read the terms and condition. If they have done created by lawyers who knows those problematic, then you may trust them better.
And that's how all of this compares to Laine. So when it comes to Laine, how does it protect lawyers from as in not breaching their obligations of professional secrecy, for example?
Correct. So a platform like Laine has been built on professional ethics. So all these rules of making sure that lawyers remain independent, even though they would go into a marketplace. Rules like remuneration of lawyers, as we said, independence of lawyers, but also professional secrecy. So all of that has been actually taken into account in structuring the platform. Yes,
Because it's not like a GP; it was specifically built
because
for the legal industry.
it's using a technological called agentic, right? So it's
Okay.
multi-agent, and so it does use LLMs, but the LLM just to generate an output. The data does not come and stay with the LLM. No data is being used to train an LLM. So Laine is not trained based on the data that you actually input into Laine.
That's a very interesting different route. Maybe we can start shifting the minds of certain lawyers, like in order to be able to trust more. So okay, so now we're going to be talking a little bit about output, and one of my main question here is like, what does the word quality in a legal document really mean? What's the word quality? Because we hear precise, we hear quality, but what are we really saying here with quality?
So the quality of a contract is a contract you understand. It's already a contract
Anyone can understand?
that the person that for whom that contract matters
Okay.
can understand.
Okay.
So it depends. It's not a standardized word for contractual. It really takes into account whom you have in front of you. Sometimes you have unsophisticated people. You can use sophisticated wording.
Yeah.
Nobody will understand that contract, and then it would be in theory a quality contract from a lawyer's standpoint. Will not be a quality contract if the person that actually reads that contract does not clearly understand every wording of it. So that's the first thing. A contract is a quality contract if it covers its topic. That means that it goes around the topic it needs to cover. So and that is the next thing is that how do you know which topic it needs to cover?
Yeah.
And whether we go back to the same thing, it's like either you have the expertise and you know by experience, or you don't know, then you need to be guided. And that's why people come and sit on at lawyers' conference room, and then the lawyers, by asking question, indirectly guide the clients. Okay, because of experience, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? And then it creates the scope of what needs to be covered. So on platforms like AI platforms, if there is no flow to guide you, then it's up to you to know what you need to cover. And that's why you need to also, again, select a platform like Laine, which will then guide you and draw your attention on things you can input or not.
On the topic of guiding, can you walk me through a real scenario of how, as a lawyer, you would use Laine from start to finish?
So it's a vast question because and I need to find a way to actually. So as a lawyer, what do you need to do? You need to do some work for your client, right? Depends the type of
Yeah.
work you have to do. So either your client comes and already knows what he wants, or you need to help you help your client to find what they want. So Laine will collect the information either from the lawyer or from the client, because there is a client portal, so the client can actually input the information itself. The lawyers will actually receive a first draft immediately. It's instant. You collect the fact, it takes 2 minutes, you have a complex first draft. Then it has an editor. So it's a platform build editor
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to work by and review based on a conversation you have with Laine. So you ask Laine to review certain topics that you want to actually
Mm-hmm.
check. Laine will do an analysis of the legality of, depending on the mode of the legality of what is missing, either in favor or not in favor of the party you represent. Is it lending friendly? Is it borrowing friendly?
Yeah.
And then we'll come with suggestions, right? So draw your attention. You can then amend the contract or amend the documents by instructing Laine to do so,
Mm-hmm.
and no longer by having to type into it. So you either can just write your instructions and says adjust this, adjust that, speak to Laine, and then Laine, if your instructions are not complete or not or might or you haven't thought about something, that's the beauty of it. Laine will start a conversation with you and say, what about that context here? What about that other clause? Do you want me to adjust it?
Okay.
And then the same thing that you would expect from a very talented senior associate. And then with the answer that you're going to input, which takes you basically literally no time,
Mm-hmm.
then you get a new draft issued by Laine as a clean and as a markup within the editor. When you're fine with it,
Mm-hmm.
you can either download it as a Word or a PDF. You can send it to your client. You can do whatever you want with it. Or
Mm-hmm.
you can even connect a law firm to another law firm with Laine and send it through the editors to another counterparty lawyer through Laine,
Ah,
so that
that's
they
very
receive it on
interesting.
their own editor. So Laine is actually providing a technology where the document sharing
Mm-hmm.
is able from law firm to law firm in the same format, so that the counterparty lawyers will be able to actually start reviewing himself with the same tools.
It makes life interesting from both ends for both law firms if everything is perfectly formatted in the same way,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it? Okay. How much time does Laine realistically save? We've already brushed upon this topic earlier, but like approximately how much time would you say that Laine realistically saves?
Look, I must say that uh, medium complexity contract that takes 10 hours, I am able to actually generate the whole thing within like 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Mm.
And then actually use the rest of your time
Then
to
and then use the rest of the
yeah,
time to speak to the client. So probably 10 times faster.
that is absolutely revolutionary, if I had to say so myself. Okay, what should lawyers start doing today to adapt to the new technologies and to adapt with the introduction of the AI tools and everything? What do you think that lawyers should start be doing? Should start to be doing?
So I think lawyers need to start doing this before clients will realize that the current way of working is no longer adapted.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, they need to start assessing the tools that are available in the market. And so they need to stop, spend time to actually propose to their own client a new way of working. And by that, by adopting tools that are compliant with the professional rules
Mm-hmm.
and that are making their life easier. So there's one thing that AI does not yet tackle so well. It's litigation, right? So
Yeah.
drafting of petition and litigation, that's so fact specific that it's not yet done, and especially every court has its own format and everything. So it's a bit difficult. But for the rest, it does AI does that
Yeah.
beautifully, even for arbitration though.
Yeah. Okay. What's the biggest mistake lawyers are making right now about AI?
Oh, um, not looking into it,
Mm.
or pretending not to look into it, but still quickly going to ChatGPT and try to do a patchwork with ChatGPT.
Mm.
So you better adopt a full solution. So they are, on the one hand, and I see that every day. On the one hand, they want to comply so much with their duties, but on the other hand, they go easy and they copy paste certain things into ChatGPT.
So it's like we haven't found a middle ground yet. It's either on either side at this point in time, right?
The the other bigger mistake that lawyers do is the same thing than what happened with the tsunami. Is like they tend to stay on the beach, look at the wave coming, and they don't start running, because technology is really going to shape that profession differently.
Yeah.
And it not 5% or 10%. I think 80% will be shaped differently. If you don't act now, then you might come after the wave, and that means that clients will already have new habits, and then you better just surf the wave with your client rather than wait until the wave has passed. Your client has now realized that there are tools existing, and you become less significant for them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you because it, understanding that it can actually be helpful for you and actually understanding on how to prompt it and how to understand certain information that it's also given you as well. It can actually be your personal own legal assistant. It's like you have your own junior always stuck to your hip and always knows the right things to say. And if you obviously you use platforms like Laine, for example, then you know that the information that's actually being provided to you is also precise and everything, right? So one final question. If a lawyer was listening to this and is still skeptical, what would you tell them in one sentence?
Just try Laine.
Just try Laine.
Try Laine.
Just
It's
try Laine.
no. What we wanted to do is to avoid, to make it easy.
Yeah.
So to give confidence and trust that this Laine is secured in terms of data, in terms of end result and output, so that it doesn't require so much rework. But also for the implementation. What I have really hated in my career as managing a law firm is dealing with IT companies and SaaS business. They come with people, then they tell you that their solution is so great. Then you have to actually delegate so many people to go into the implementation phase, take your data, process it and stuff. And then when you realize that what was on their brochure was actually not so much, that they charge you more to code certain things because it doesn't apply to your own business.
Yeah.
And it costs you a fortune to implement even before you start using it. Laine, you just register, you don't have to pay any implementation cost. You buy credit and then you start using it. And it's a fraction of the fees you pay you charge to client. So Laine will represent probably a cost of goods sold of 3 to 4% of your hourly rate. So that means that you don't have to pay millions like for Harvey or Legora to implement,
To plug it in.
and then you capture that into your hourly rate, and that's a huge benefit. You can use your own documents. Trust,
Yeah.
our lawyers have big ego, right? They all have big ego. We all have a bit of an ego. My drafting is better than his drafting.
Yeah, there's a bit of a
I would have put that sentence a bit in a different shape. So we allow. Laine allows lawyers or in-house
counsels, yeah.
to upload their own documents and start from there. So they don't have to actually use Laine's library. And if they don't have a contract, then they can use Laine's library. which is really amazingly done. To be honest, they are the
If I
best.
say so
But
myself.
that's myself. But you can use your own contract and start from there, and create your own library without having to have um, 3 or 4 guys implementing your data, processing it, and waiting for 6 months, and then readjusting, refixing things. It's
Mhm.
immediate. It goes from Laine. It's actually extracted. It needs to be a Word document or an original PDF. It's extracted into the Laine's editor. Then you can save it into a category. You can create your playbook, and then you can start from there. And you can invite your clients and give your client a working portal
Mhm.
with you. It's hyper modern. Nobody has that. And if you do a transaction, you can invite the counterparty lawyer into Laine and send them straight from Laine to Laine the documents in a hyper confidential manner, so that they can actually start working on on the documents you're transacting. You know, and that's the beauty of it. Right?
So for everyone listening out there, just try Laine. That will be our advice for today.
It's a bit
Our free legal advice.
was not supposed to be a commercial podcast, but it's true. It works quite well.
Okay, that seems to be all the questions that I have for you today.
And thank you for always being here. And
You are most welcome.
and I'm looking forward to everybody for the next episode that will be probably filmed in a month's time now. This time out of Switzerland. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye.